For 10 years of marriage, Song Xiao climbed to success on my back, yet he harbored a deep-seated hatred for me all along. After I died, he swallowed up my family's company and married his childhood sweetheart on their wedding day, Fu Yun, the man I was once betrothed to as a child, and who later became my sworn rival, detonated the ceremony before the flames consumed everything. Fu Yun said with a smile, "She's dead, leaving you to rise effortlessly to success. Where in the world can such a good thing happen?" When I opened my eyes again, I was back 10 years ago pulling Song Xiao. I went to find Fu Yun to annul the engagement that day. He looked at me indifferently. "Have you really thought it through? Are you really going to break off our engagement for him?" One Meng Wei, I never go back to what I've left behind. Have you really thought it through? Are you really going to break off our engagement for such a person? The moment that familiar, cool male voice rang out, I was still lost in the aftermath of the explosion. The overwhelming blaze of garish flames felt like it could sear even my disembodied soul. Floating in midair, Fu Yun stood amidst the flames, hefting a gun, and pulled the trigger. Song Xiao, a tempest of shock and fury, managed a cold smile. "She's dead, and you all get to climb the ladder of success. Since when does the world work that way?" At that moment, the invisible shackles binding me suddenly fell away. Something suddenly clicked in my mind. It turns out that in my past life, I was the vicious female antagonist in a Yandere redemption story. Having taken a liking to the male lead, Song Xiao, who was still a poor student, I coerced him with his mother's medical expenses, accept my financial support and date me. Song Xiao believed I had humiliated him with money, and he held a grudge against me for years. After we married, he conspired with others to seize my family's company while secretly carrying on with his childhood sweetheart. Later, he slowly drove me to madness, had me committed to a psychiatric hospital, and watched me fall to my death. Then, he transformed himself into a newly minted tycoon and married his childhood sweetheart too. I finally understood. Fu Yun and I were childhood sweethearts, inseparable from childhood to adulthood. Why in my previous life, as soon as Song Xiao appeared, I suddenly fell in love with him as if I had lost my mind. Coming to my senses, I glanced around the room. I saw the parents on both sides, each with a different expression, and there was Fu Yun, sitting on the sofa, his gaze sharp and cold as he looked up at me. Suddenly, I remembered in my past life, it was on this very day that I had my final, irreparable falling out with Fu Yun. The Meng and Fu families were old friends, and today was supposed to be the customary gathering for both families, yet, I arrived late and, to make matters worse, brought Song Xiao along with me. Without preamble, I demanded to break off my engagement with Fu Yun. "I never liked you to begin with, and now I already have a boyfriend, so, you're here to break off our engagement over this?" Fu Yun adjusted the gold-rimmed glasses on his nose. His gaze fell on Song Xiao beside me, filled with undisguised disdain. Song Xiao straightened his back and retorted, "What are you so smug about? You're just born into a slightly better family than me." "Slightly better?" Fu Yun curled his lips, pulling a mocking smile. "You'd better get this straight. If it weren't for Wei Wei bringing you here, you wouldn't even have the right to stand in front of me and speak." 3. Those words struck a deep blow to Song Xiao's fragile pride. In my past life, watching him flush with humiliation, my heart ached terribly for him. Immediately stepped in front of him and lashed out at Fu Yun without thinking. I called him delusional and a stalker. "Don't think I don't know. That guy from high school who wrote me a love letter and mysteriously got hit by a car, breaking his leg, was that you?" "Fu Yun, people like you make me sick just looking at them. What exactly do you have that can compare to Song Xiao? Apart from a better background." I hurled a lot of harsh words at him, but Fu Yun didn't retort a single word. He sat silently in place, as if turned into a frozen statue. After a long while, he pressed down on his glasses and said calmly, "Fine, I agree to call off the engagement." Song Xiao turned back, his voice icy. "Miss Meng was bringing me here just to have me humiliated." I dug my nails into my palm, forcing my mind to clear from the chaos of having just been reborn. Hearing this, I suddenly laughed. "Insult. Fu Yun was merely stating the facts. People like you, I'll play with for a while, but is it really worth his effort to waste words on you? You overestimate yourself." Song Xiao. As soon as these words were spoken, the entire living room fell into sudden silence. Everyone stared at me in astonishment. From the sofa just 2 steps away, Fu Yun's head snapped up. Behind the lenses were eyes as fragile and clear as glass, filled with poorly concealed astonishment. "What did you say?" Song Xiao's expression instantly turned utterly mortified. I said, "Don't tell me you think you're anywhere near as good as my fiancé. He always ignores me when discussing business, and I'm upset, so I'm just using you to provoke him." I let go of his hand and took a step to the side, as if avoiding something dirty. "I've given you the boot. Now you can get lost. Song Xiao stared at me in disbelief, but he was escorted out by the alerted butler. Before leaving, he threw down the gauntlet. Meng Wei, I'm not someone you can summon and dismiss at will. Next time, even if you beg me on your knees, I won't reconcile with you, for he's so competent. I'm dying, but I had no time to spare for Song Xiao now, so I ran over to Fu Yun's side in small steps and crouched down. In my past life, I only found out long after the annulment of our engagement that Fu Yun was hospitalized that very night. He sat motionless on the sofa all day because he had an attack of stomach pain while negotiating business abroad, but because he was so eager to see me, he still mustered the strength to rush back. Yet, the moment I saw him, I blurted out my intention to call off the engagement. I truly deserve to be damned. Their eyes met, and a flicker of understanding suddenly crossed Fu Yun's gaze. He sneered, using me to make your boyfriend jealous again. It's not surprising that Fu Yun would think that. In a past life, I did indeed use Fu Yun to provoke Song Xiao, trying to prove he cared about me. A foolish move. I can only soften my voice and play dumb. What boyfriend? A Yun, I only have you as my fiancé. He looked down at me. I'm not feeling well. Could you please take me to the hospital first? Fu Yun suddenly frowned. What's wrong? Are you having cramps again? I answered without thinking. Yeah, cramps. He glanced at me sideways. I don't think it's that time of the month for you. Because of Song Xiao, we'd actually been giving each other the cold shoulder for a long time. I can't believe he actually remembered my period. My heart was suddenly flooded with a bittersweet ache. Well, you know, it just came early this time. I carefully tugged at his sleeve and gave it a little shake. I need to go get a painkiller shot. Will you come with me, please? Fu Yun was lost in thought, remaining silent for a moment, calmly replied, okay, 5. I got into the car and called the driver over. Forbidding Fu Yun from driving, he didn't insist, just sat next to me in the back seat. There was still a space of one person between us. I whispered, Yun, are you angry with me? He barely curved the corner of his lips self-deprecatingly. He thought, how could I dare? Just 4 words, and my heart was engulfed in overwhelming guilt. In my previous life, under the control of the plot, my parents couldn't persuade me, and could only watch me marry Song Xiao, diligently using the family's assets to keep his company afloat, because Fu Yun was always competing with Song Xiao, snatching his projects. Thus, he became my sworn enemy. In my previous life, those 10 years, the few times we met, it was always cold words, never a kind look. Yun, I sniffled, suddenly speaking up, haven't seen you in 2 months. Have you missed me? Fu Yun glanced at me sideways, said nothing. I felt a bit awkward and tried to make small talk. You didn't bring me a gift this time. Last time you brought something, but you threw it away because you thought it was dirty, he said coldly, then turned his head away and closed his eyes, clearly a dismissive stance, too lazy to engage in further conversation with me. The last time Fu Yun returned from abroad, he brought me a whole box of rubies. As he handed it over, he casually said, go make some trinkets with it, don't spend all day with low-class stuff. Whether it was the rubies themselves or Fu Yun's words, both stung Song Xiao's male pride, so to cheer Song Xiao up, I immediately threw the box of gems back at him. I don't want your filthy stuff. At this thought, I closed my eyes in despair. I was cursing the original plot in my head for being so damn stupid. You'd need to have brain damage for a decade to come up with that, but in reality, all I could do was slowly close the distance between us. Inching closer to Fu Yun, I turned to my side, pressing close against him, my chin resting on his shoulder, and whispered, actually, Fu Yun, there's something I need to tell you. Warm breath exhaled, stirring a small gust of air that brushed against the stray strands of hair near his ear. Fu Yun suddenly opened his eyes and grabbed the back of my collar, pulling me aside. No matter what you're trying to achieve today with that performance with Song Xiao, I won't listen. Don't waste your effort. He frowned and paused slightly. Don't move around if you're feeling unwell. When Fu Yun scolded me, he had a stern face and a cold expression. However, I noticed that his earlobes to his neck had turned red. He also deliberately adjusted to an awkward sitting position. Fu Yun, I tentatively called him. You wouldn't sit properly. He lowered his eyelashes, hiding the turbulent undercurrents of desire in his eyes, his voice a bit hoarse. You don't need to worry about my affairs. 6. When the car stopped at the hospital entrance, the cold and tense atmosphere between Fu Yun and me had eased considerably. Thinking of his unbearable pain from his stomach ailment, I used the excuse of wanting him to help me and took his arm. Suddenly, a sweet yet angry female voice rang out from the side. Meng Wei. I turned my head and saw Su Wan, Song Jiao's childhood friend, rush up to me, glaring at me furiously. You did this on purpose, didn't you? You deliberately had Aunt Song's medicine cut off. just to force Song Xiao to bow down to you. Her eyes darted behind me, and her eyelids suddenly reddened. You once said that as long as I disappeared, you would bring that seasoned oncologist out of retirement to treat Auntie Song. Are you going back on your word now? Wan Song Xiao quickly stepped forward from behind me, pulling Su Wan to his side and shielding her. Then, with a lowered gaze and a humble tone, he said, Meng Wei, it's all my fault. I'm not angry about what you did to me today. Please don't make things difficult for Wan and my mother. From now on, I will obediently listen to everything you say. I suddenly realized in my past life, the expert who treated Song Zhao's mother was someone I had to pull strings through the Fu family to get. No, I hadn't even had a chance to speak. My arm suddenly felt empty. Fu Yun pulled his arm away from me, lowered his eyes, and sneered. His gaze carried both understanding and a bone-chilling coldness. That's why you suddenly wanted me to take you to the hospital, Meng Wei. Is this what you wanted to tell me, right? 7. Fu Yun's expression, cold and sharp on the surface, yet as fragile as shattered glass, was all too familiar to me. In my past life, every time I confronted him head-on for Song Xiao, he would look at me like that. Back then, I was bound by the original plot, completely focused on Song Xiao. I found Fu Yun's pretentiousness utterly annoying. Now, it pains me deeply, and I instinctively retort, no. He no longer looked at me, only coldly gazing at Song Xiao. If you look down on me, then show some real skills. Even for treating your own mother, you have to drag my fiancé into this charade. Aren't you ashamed? Song Xiao gritted his teeth fiercely, a flash of humiliation in his eyes. Mr. Fu, don't think you're so great. Clenching his fist, he said coldly, you'll pay for what you said today. Mark my words. Fu Yun ignored him and walked away without a backward glance. I was about to go after him when Song Xiao grabbed my arm. Meng Wei. He looked at me with slightly downcast eyes, his voice hoarse. Meng Wei, it's all my fault. Don't be angry. When his cold fingers gripped my wrist, memories of my past life flooded back, and I felt like a chilling serpent had coiled around me. Don't touch me. Disgusting. Taken aback, Song Xiao seemed stunned, clearly disbelief. After all, no matter how angry I was before, as long as he showed a little softness, I would relent without limits. Meng Wei. He was about to say more, but I cut him off sharply. Since you've always felt that my spending money is an insult to you, transfer the 600,000 I gave for your mother's treatment back to my account within 3 days. Let's see just how much pride you really have. 8. I ran in high heels all the way, barely catching up with Fu Yun at the hospital entrance. Fu Yun, I grabbed his sleeve, gasping for breath, but before I could say anything, he turned his head. Meng Wei, there is indeed some old affection between us, but that doesn't mean you can use that as leverage to make me give endless ground for your little boyfriend, he said coldly, trying to pull his sleeve back, but I held on to it tightly. This has nothing to do with him. All right, I admit it, I didn't come to the hospital for period cramps. I wanted to bring you here. Your stomach trouble is acting up again, isn't it? Don't think I don't know. Fu Yun, you never eat properly when you're out on business. He looked at me, startled, his gaze slowly tracing over my features as if searching my expression for any hint of whether I was telling the truth. Seeing his resolve begin to waver, I pressed my advantage without hesitation, dragged the person into the clinic. The doctor held his test report, his brow furrowed. Chronic gastritis requires special attention to diet, especially when you're not feeling well. Don't tough it out, come to the hospital as soon as possible. Let's start with 2 days of 4 fluids. 9. Sunlight streamed through the glass window, flooding the room without obstruction. When only Fu Yun and I were left in the hospital room, the air suddenly grew still. I ordered some congee for delivery, and when it arrived, I scooped it up with a small spoon, blew on it to cool it down, and fed it to him. Fu Yun lowered his gaze, lost in thought. The doctor said you should eat something, or your stomach might feel upset during the 4 drip. I reminded him, and he finally looked up at me. His eyes, caught in the sunlight, shimmered like rippling water. All right, he murmured a low assent and finally opened his mouth. After he had drunk about half the bowl of congee, Fu Yun signaled for me to put the bowl down. Phone. With a puzzled look, I handed over my phone and watched as he typed in a string of numbers. What is this? Director Fong's number. It's the oncology expert you've been so eager to bring on board. I snapped my head up and saw the slightly pale complexion on Fu Yun's face, along with a faint, bitter smile at the corner of his lips. It suddenly dawned on me. To this day, he still thinks I have an ulterior motive. You brought me to the hospital, and I'll give you what you want. That makes us even. I don't want you to bring this up the next time you come begging for him, saying how disgusting it was to watch me eat that porridge. Meng Wei, I am human too. The sunlight slanted in, casting a rare vulnerability over his stern features. My chest suddenly felt tight and painful, leaving me speechless. I remember what Fu Yun said about this 3 months ago. Song Zhao's studio was trying to land a project, and Fu Yun was the client's key decision maker, so I went and worked on him, cooking him a meal and bringing a gift. When Fu Yun was in a good mood, I asked him, "Could you ease up a bit and let Song Zhao's team handle that project?" The smile on Fu Yun's lips faded almost instantly. He put down his chopsticks and looked at me. "So, you came to see me today because of your boyfriend again. Song Zhao is really capable." I tried to argue, but was cut off by his stern voice. "A capable person wouldn't need to rely on you to get a project through back channels. You can go now. I've already reviewed the proposal and made my decision. He won't be chosen." Fu Yun stood up, pushed his chair back, and gave the order for him to leave. I was so furious that I lost my temper and started yelling at him. "If it weren't for Song Zhao, I wouldn't even want to lay eyes on you. Just watching you eat the food I made turns my stomach." 10. Through my blurred vision, a hand suddenly reached out and brushed away the dampness at the corner of my eye. It was only then that I realized I had been crying. Fu Yun retracted his hand and said indifferently, "Don't feel wronged. After today, I won't come looking for you again, Meng Wei. We're even now. I have a criminal record, so it's normal that he doesn't trust me." As I tried to convince myself in my heart, I forced back my tears and looked at Fu Yun earnestly. "I'm sorry." He was slightly taken aback. "Matters of the heart cannot be forced. No need to apologize. After we return from the hospital today, I will explain everything to Uncle and Auntie, and we will withdraw." Before he could finish his sentence, I cut him off with an unexpected kiss. Fu Yun's eyes widened abruptly, staring at me in disbelief. I awkwardly lingered on his lips for a moment before pulling back slightly, clutching his collar and breathing lightly. "No, don't even mention breaking off the engagement." I composed myself and continued, "Fu Yun, no matter if you believe me or not, those things related to Song Zhao weren't what I wanted to do. I brought you to the hospital just because I noticed your poor complexion and was worried about your health." He looked down at me, the emotion swirling in his eyes obscured by his long lashes. "Unclear. Is this your new tactic again?" I suppressed the bitterness in my heart. "We've known each other for as long as I've been alive, so you can't doubt me. If you don't believe me, I'll kiss you again." As I say this, I moved closer once more, but Fu Yun stopped me by pressing his forehead against mine, just in time. His breath was so close to me, his voice slightly hoarse. "Meng Wei, do you know what you're doing right now?" I responded with a sound. "I know what we did when we were 18. Those words were the fuse that ignited everything. In an instant, it burned away all reason between Fu Yun and me. 11. That night after the college entrance exam, my family threw a special banquet to celebrate me. I had a few glasses of champagne, feeling tipsy, and dragged Fu Yun into the room. I asked him, "What does it feel like to kiss?" He looked at me quietly. "Wei, you're drunk." I was a bit upset. "Don't change the subject. If you don't tell me, I'll go find someone else." Woo. Before I could finish, Fu Yun suddenly grabbed my chin and leaned in to kiss me. A faint scent of lemongrass wafted from him. I think it was the gift I gave him for his birthday this year. His lips and tongue, along with the fingertips pressed against my neck, were all scalding hot. My head was spinning, and soon I could only muster the strength to clutch at the front of his shirt, forced to endure the overwhelming heat that followed. Fu Yun's voice carried an undercurrent of desire. "That's what a kiss feels like. Want to go deeper?" Wei. 12. Back then, we were so close, so inseparable. I always thought that after graduating from university, I would marry Fu Yun, but after starting school, it was the moment I first laid eyes on Song Zhao. As if possessed, I was dragged into the whirlpool of the original plot. 13. He's lying right there in the hospital bed. How could the 4 have come out? The nurse came to reinsert the 4 for Fu Yun and added a concerned reminder, "Try not to move around." "Okay, there's just one more bag to go." Fu Yun gave a slight, indifferent nod. Instead, I, sitting to the side, rubbed my warm ears. Only after the nurse left did I whisper an apology. "I'm sorry, I got so caught up in the kiss that I pressed against Fu Yun's arm, causing the 4 needle to shift and blood to soak through the entire piece of tape." He glanced at me. "No need to apologize. Are you willing to believe me now? We'll see how you perform." Although that's what I said, my tone has softened slightly. Towards the end of this month, Fu Yun went to a neighboring city to discuss business. I went back to school to attend classes, but I also made sure to send him messages whenever I could. I demonstrated with actions that my heart belonged only to him. Fu Yun's birthday was approaching, and that afternoon, I wanted to go to the mall to pick out a gift for him. Suddenly, I spotted a familiar figure from a distance. It's Song Zhao. Because I spoke too harshly at the hospital that day, he hasn't contacted me since. I was actually quite relieved, but now, during the time he should be busy at the studio, he's walking into a nearby garden restaurant with a young man. My heart clenched, and I hurried forward a few steps. The moment I stepped inside, the man happened to look up. It was like a thunderbolt striking me. I froze completely on the spot. Wasn't this Shui Kai, the very man who, in my past life, collaborated with Song Xiao to drive Fu Yun and the Meng family to their ruin? 14. I sneaked over and hid behind a few clusters of greenery, just in time to overhear their conversation. Fu Yun has already gone to Haicheng, it seems. He didn't notice there's a problem with that project. Song Xiao let out a cold laugh, his voice chilling. What I want isn't just his company, but his life. In my previous life, I often found myself wondering. Fu Yun was born into the Fu family, the most outstanding child of this generation. At 20, he enrolled in an MBA program at the top business school, then returned home to take over the family company. Why did Fu Yun, with all his advantages, keep losing to Song Xiao, eventually losing most of the family business to him? Is it just because he has the protagonist's halo, or does he possess some special information? What's this Haicheng project they keep talking about? A whirlwind of questions swirled in my mind. I desperately wanted to ask Fu Yun, but I was afraid that confronting Song Xiao prematurely would only accelerate the original plot, pushing Fu Yun toward his inevitable fate. After much deliberation, I decided to start with Song Xiao to gather information, prevent Fu Yun from falling into danger under the influence of the original plot. 15. After returning home, I asked the nanny to make soup and then took it to the hospital. As expected, I ran into Song Xiao in the ward. He gave me a cold glance and said nothing. I shuffled over, swallowing my pride, and tugged at his sleeve. I tried to recall my previous arrogant yet pleading tone. Aren't you still mad at me? I'm so wrong too. You promised me you wouldn't have any more contact with Su Wan, but when I arrived at the hospital, she was still there, yelling at me. Who does she think she is? A flicker of disgust flashed in Song Zhao's eyes, but he masked it perfectly. I've already asked her to leave, he said flatly. She only came that day because she was worried about my mother's health. It won't happen again. It better not. Don't forget, I'm your girlfriend. So, I spoke to Fu Yun these past few days. He said he'd help get that specialist to come out of retirement to operate on your mother, but we'll have to wait a bit. A project he's been looking to invest in recently has run into some trouble. Song Zhao's Adam's apple bobbed. He suddenly turned to look at me. What kind of trouble? I pretended to be deep in thought. I think it had something to do with the outskirts of Haicheng, right? For the rest of the day, Song Zhao's attitude towards me suddenly became much warmer. He kept fishing for information, trying to find out if Fu Yun had learned something, playing along and pretending I wanted to reconcile. I finally let him take me to a dinner with Shui Kai and the others. Before leaving, I inexplicably felt a bit uneasy, so I called Fu Yun to let him know, but his phone was turned off. After much thought, I decided I couldn't miss such a great opportunity. In the highly private room, Shui Kai raised his glass to me. Miss Meng, I am interested in investing in Song Zhao's studio. My name is Shui Kai. Perhaps in the future, we will have the opportunity to collaborate. I recall in my past life, it was him who helped Song Xiao destroy most of the Fu Corporation and take over my family's business. I can only force myself to be polite to him despite feeling disgusted. After a few rounds of drinks, he casually brought it up. I heard the Meng and Fu families have been close for generations, and Miss Meng was even engaged to Fu Yun, the current head of the Fu family. What engagement? It was just something the elders from both families made up. He keeps making things difficult for a Xiao, and I absolutely hate him for it. I looked at Song Xiao. Since I was a child, there's only ever been one person I've liked, and that's A Xiao. If it weren't for A Xiao, I would never have forced myself to stomach this disgust and play nice with him. Even as I said these words, my mind was completely filled with the faces of Song Xiao and Shui Kai. The hatred I displayed was so raw and visceral that everyone in the private room burst out laughing. Miss Meng truly has a keen eye, able to see through the true nature of someone like Fu Yun, who pretends to be a gentleman. Shui Kai smiled and leaned in. So, would you mind telling me what he was really up to in Haicheng? The alcohol was hitting me, and I stood up. Excuse me, I'm not feeling well, I need to go to the restroom. I walked unsteadily to the private room door in my high heels. Pulling it open, a cold breeze mixed with the faint scent of lemongrass wafted over. The light spread thinly over the familiar handsome face in front of me. I jolted. Suddenly fully awake, Fu Yun stood expressionless at the doorway. When he saw me, the corner of his mouth lifted in the faintest hint of a smile. Weiwei, so that's how it is. 16. The corridor was bathed in the warm, yellow glow of the lights. It fell on Fu Yun's face, but it was bone-chillingly cold. He heard it. Amidst the mixed scents, I suddenly pulled out a thread from my tangled thoughts. The rising intoxication instantly dissipated. My fingers trembled on the doorknob. A sense of dread washed over me, and before I could think, the name slipped out. Ayun. Better not call him that again. I'd only end up sickening myself. His gaze swept over me, cold and full of disappointment. Then it shifted past my shoulder, landing on Song Xiao and Shui Kai behind me. If you're so curious about why I went to Haicheng, why not just ask me directly? He let out a low chuckle, his voice taking on a sharper, more decisive edge. Did you really think planting a few spies in the company could sway my judgment? Your methods are as laughable as you are. He was already tall to begin with, and now standing upright, his gaze towards the crowd was unmistakably condescending. Clown. With that, he turned and walked away. Inside the private room, Song Zhao's expression darkened, and suddenly, he flipped over the plate with a sweep of his hand. What's there to be so smug about? Did you think that's all I've got? One day, I'll watch him die right in front of my eyes. I was itching to slap him twice, but remembering the original plot, I knew I couldn't let my guard down. I could only manage to force a smile. I'll go back with Fu Yun first and ask him what he's discovered. After saying that, I grabbed my bag and left. I chased him all the way downstairs and saw him getting into the car. Fu Yun. I caught my breath and spoke hurriedly. Listen to me. I came here today to find out what kind of scheme Song Xiao and the others are plotting against you. Through the half-open car window, meeting Fu Yun's gaze, as calm and still as stagnant water, my voice suddenly faltered. He raised a hand, propping his chin leisurely, as if listening to some amusing joke. Even curved the corners of his lips slightly, letting out a soft chuckle. Are you also going to say that it's all because you like me, worry about my safety, and are afraid I can't handle them alone? Boundless anxiety and panic rose from the depths of my heart like bubbles on the surface of the sea. I pinched my palm, forcing myself to calm down and explain seriously. Yes, I know you don't believe me, but Song Xiao is not as simple as you think. If his methods were only what he's shown, I wouldn't be. Wei. Fu Yun suddenly interrupted me. Through the slowly closing car window, I saw his eyes that seemed completely shattered yet still beautiful. You can't just keep lying to me over and over, thinking my love and indulgence for you have no limits. Let's not contact each other anymore. With those words, the car window sealed shut, the tinted film cutting off the outside world completely. The black rolls Royce drove away without a moment's hesitation. I was left standing there alone. A cool night breeze swept by, and I suddenly shivered. In my previous life, after I married Song Xiao, Fu Yun had warned me more than once, saying he was ambitious and treacherous, and that I must be careful. No matter what he says, I won't believe him. I even sneered at him, mocking, aren't you just jealous of a Xiao? Jealous that he came from humble beginnings but now stands higher than you, you liar and hypocrite. I won't believe a single word you say. Back then, Fu Yun stood before me, impeccably dressed in a tailored suit, but his eyes were filled with deep hurt. Before I knew it, I was in the car, instructing the driver to take me to the Fu residence. However, Fu Yun didn't go back to the old family home, nor did he return to his own place. The car drove around for what felt like half the city, finally coming to a stop at the building where his company was located. I looked up and saw a light still on in the top floor office. I remembered the sharp, resistant expression on his face just before the car window closed. Suddenly, I felt a bit timid, so I went to the convenience store next door, bought a can of beer, and chugged it down to bolster my courage. I waited until the haze of intoxication crept back over me before stepping into the elevator and pressing the button. 17. Fu Yun's office was on the 39th floor, offering a high degree of privacy, but he never put his guard up around me. As I pushed open the door, the vast office was empty. From the closed restroom next to it, a faint sound of water could be heard. Apart from that, only the subtle fragrance of lemongrass mingled with a faint trace of blood. My heart clenched, and a flood of memories from my past life flashed through my mind. Without a second thought, I pushed open the door to the lounge beside me, and at the very moment the door swung open, the sound of running water from the lounge's bathroom abruptly stopped. Fu Yun emerged, drying his damp hair, but the instant his eyes met mine, he froze in his tracks. Wei. My gaze was drawn to him, almost against my will. I've always known that Fu Yun was exceptionally handsome, but most of the time, he wears that aloof expression, keeping everyone at a distance. Yet at this moment, the steam softened the usually sharp, severe lines of his brow and eyes. Droplets rolled from his hair, tracing the defined lines of his muscles downward before disappearing beneath the edge of the towel wrapped around his waist. The pale skin, usually hidden beneath layers of a suit, was now fully exposed. A single, small mole on his waist seemed to radiate a palpable sensuality. Additionally, several layers of gauze were wrapped around his left forearm, now soaked through with water, faintly revealing a reddish hue of blood. He was indeed injured. 18. Get out. My gaze must have been too intense, too obvious, because Fu Yun closed his eyes for a moment before reprimanding me in a cold voice, yet his tone lacked any real force. Whether it was the alcohol or pure instinct, I found myself blinking slowly. Instead of leaving, I took a few steps further into the room and closed the door behind me. You're hurt, I said, walking up to him step by step. Fu Yun, what happened? And your wound is starting to bleed again. It needs to be rebandaged. It's just a scratch, Fu Yun said coolly. I'll handle it myself. It's none of your concern. As he spoke, he paused for a moment. Miss Meng, you really shouldn't be in my office right now, especially considering your boyfriend. I threw my arms around his neck and pressed a wine-scented kiss to his lips, cutting off the rest of his sentence. Just stop talking. I don't want to hear another word, I murmured, my words slurred and indistinct as our lips moved against each other. Their warmth grew into a searing heat. Stumbling, we fell together onto the nearby bed, the towel between us pulled loose in the tangle of our limbs. As the long and deep kiss ended, I leaned on Fu Yun's shoulder, gasping for breath. I saw the overwhelming dark desire in his eyes. Still, it was somewhat difficult to speak. Is it for him again this time? For my own sake, of course, I said, rising on my toes to close the distance. 19. At 4 in the morning, I dragged my weary body onto the carpet, barely able to keep my balance. Fu Yun hooked his uninjured arm around my waist and pulled me back in one swift motion. You should get some rest, Wei. I strained to look back at him, but your wound really needs to be redressed. And how did you get hurt in the first place? Fu Yun suddenly fell silent. In the suffocating silence, I suddenly realized, you don't think I'm here to gather information about you for Song Shao, do you? He stared straight at me, clearly implying agreement. I'm feeling a bit hurt, and a bit angry. We've already been through that kind of thing. I told you. I was worried you might be in danger, so I went to Song Shao to find out their plans against you. Why won't you believe me? I did trust you. Fu Yun's voice was soft. Over these 2 years, I believed in you many times. Wei. My throat suddenly felt like it was blocked by something. I blinked my slightly sore eyes and heard him continue. But whether I believe it or not no longer matters. From now on, no matter how sweet-talked you are, I won't let you go again. As for that Song Shao, he's not as simple as you think, I blurted out, seeing Fu Yun's slightly furrowed brow, and couldn't help but take a deep breath. If I told you that in a past life I died by his hand, would you believe me? 20. Heavy rain lashed against the windowpane outside, the gloom so deep not a sliver of moonlight could be seen. In the dim, ambiguous light of the room, the man sitting across from me, Fu Yun, seemed to have turned to stone. A past life. Fu Yun, have you ever considered that we might just be characters in a book? After a moment's hesitation, and mindful of the terrifying power of the original plot, I decided to tell Fu Yun everything. I don't know if it was a dream, or a past life that truly existed. In short, in my previous life, from the moment Song Shao appeared, it seemed like I could only see him. By the time I finished recounting those 10 years of my past life in detail, the rain outside had already stopped, the horizon was unfolding with a faint golden glow. The final project cost my parents their lives and allowed Song Shao to successfully take over all of my family's assets. He said he hated me because, for the past 10 years by my side, he had endured unimaginable humiliation. After that, he had me committed to a mental institution, claiming that the blow had been too great and I had lost my sanity. At this point, I suddenly felt a lump in my throat. Even after all this time, everything has started anew. Those 6 months in the psychiatric hospital still feel like a nightmare to me. Every day, I was bound and forced to take excessive doses of medication. My mind was foggy, with almost no moments of clarity. I was also subjected to the near death agony of regular electric shocks. So later, after I finally regained my senses, I fled the ward and jumped from the hospital rooftop. My voice, trailing off with a slight tremble, was swallowed up by Fu Yun's sudden embrace and the warmth of his body. His hand slid through my hair, pressing my head against his chest. It was just a dream. I won't let that happen. Yes, you won't. I closed my eyes in his arms. It seemed as if the fiery glow of that wedding day was reappearing before my eyes. So even in your dream, when you couldn't overcome the power of the original plot and couldn't save me, you still sent Song Shao to hell at the moment of his greatest happiness and fulfillment. The familiar scent from Fu Yun and the fatigue from a sleepless night, it made me fall into a deep sleep quickly. In my dream, it felt as if I had returned to a past life during that decade when Fu Yun and I were at each other's throats. Whenever we met in public, I would attack him with the most vicious words and go to any lengths to undermine him, yet he still wore that lemongrass-scented cologne when I was alive. I loathed him to the core and never paid it any mind. It wasn't until I watched him be consumed by the flames that I suddenly understood, because that was Meng Wei at 18. Meng Wei, before she ever met Song Xiao, the final gift for Fu Yun, 21. The first thing I did after waking up was to rush Fu Yun to the hospital to have his wound retreated. Avoid getting it wet, and don't exert any force on this arm for 7 days. After the doctor finished his serious instructions, "You can leave now." Once we were in the car, I turned to Fu Yun and asked, "Can you tell me now how you really got hurt?" In the dim light of the car, he gazed into my eyes and let out a soft sigh. "It was just a minor accident that happened during a site inspection at the project." I suddenly bit my lip. "Is this about Song Xiao?" Fu Yun's warm fingertip nudged over, parting my teeth from my lip, then soothingly stroked my lip, as if to comfort me. "Don't worry, the only way he can hurt me is through you, so you just need to stay away from him. Leave the rest to me." "But I don't want that." I caught his fingers, which held a hint of provocation, and said earnestly, "Fu Yun, I've died once before. In a way, I'm older than you are now. No matter what you plan to do or how you deal with Song Xiao, let me know, and count me in." "Okay." He fell silent for a moment, then quietly agreed, "Okay, Wei Wei, I won't interfere with your decisions. However, you should try to stay away from Song Xiao as much as possible." I nodded, a sudden urge to tease him surfacing. "Are you afraid I'll fall under Song Xiao's spell again?" Fu Yun gave a calm nod, yet, behind his lowered lashes, a flicker of poorly concealed vulnerability passed. He was afraid. So even Fu Yun, who took over the Fu family at 16 and was rumored to be decisive and ruthless, felt fear. I cupped Fu Yun's face and said earnestly, "Fu Yun, we've known each other since the day I was born. As a child, I was weak and sickly, staying in the hospital, and it was you who came every day with a bouquet of flowers and comic books. When I got my first period at 14, you were the one who bought me sanitary pads. After we secretly kissed at 18, I'd been having dreams about you. Without the forced brainwashing of the original plot, I wouldn't have given Song Xiao a second glance. I have always loved you, only you." These words were like the key that suddenly opened Pandora's box. He kissed me in an instant. 22. After that day, Song Xiao didn't contact me for a long time. I made some inquiries at the hospital and only then learned that he had managed to get another renowned oncologist to come out of retirement to perform the surgery for his mother. This must be his protagonist Aura. As graduation approached, I decided to start interning at my family's company early. Since the Meng family has long maintained a partnership with the Fu family, I naturally had more interactions with Fu Yun. I planned to visit Song Xiao's studio later. I sat across from Fu Yun, took a bite of the bagel in my hand, and began to speak according to the course of my previous life. By this time, we would have already fallen out, and I would have started using our family's resources to help Song Xiao expand his network, taking a crucial project away from you. Fu Yun suddenly looked up at me. Beneath the long lashes, the emotions in his eyes were unconcealed. I quickly added, "Just to feel him out and see how far along his plan is. Wait for me to come home for dinner tonight." Song Jiao's studio isn't far from the city center. Thanks to his initial connections, he wouldn't have been able to afford this place without my relentless help. As I walked in, I saw Suwon sitting at his desk. Song Xiao stood behind her, leaning down in a highly suggestive manner, almost enveloping her entire body in his embrace. That's exactly how it was in my past life. I had caught him and Suwon in their inappropriate intimacy countless times, yet Song Xiao stubbornly refused to admit it. I fought with him over it again and again, each time causing a massive scene. When I was hysterical, nearly out of my mind, Song Xiao would just stand there, watching me with weary eyes. Later, all of this became evidence of how I oppressed and humiliated him. 23. Snapping back to the present, I spoke coldly. "What are you doing?" The two people in front of them seemed to suddenly freeze. A moment later, Song Xiao straightened up and smoothed out his slightly wrinkled clothes. He looked at me, but his words were directed at Suwon. "You go out first." Suwon glared at me discontentedly and got up to leave. With just the two of us left in the room, Song Jiao's expression turned cold again. "Didn't you leave with Fu Yun? What are you doing here looking for me?" He still thought he could manipulate me using the same old tricks. Fair enough. If Meng Wei were under the original plot's control, she would humble herself and apologize at this moment, claiming she only loves him. Then, she would go to great lengths to help his studio, proving that only she could give him certain things. I slightly raised my chin. "Recently, my family's company has a project that was originally intended to collaborate with the Fu Corporation, but I want to choose you." Song Xiao suddenly looked up at me, his Adam's apple bobbing. A faint smile touched my lips. However, that project has a very long timeline and involves enormous capital. I need to first ascertain how much of it you can handle. That evening, after returning home, I told Fu Yun everything I had found out, weaving it together with the plot from my previous life. I suspect that due to my rebirth, the plot has advanced ahead of schedule, and Song Xiao has already hooked up with Zhao Run, the newly appointed gang leader in the South City. In my previous life, he didn't meet that person until years later, and with his current power, collaborating with someone like that is akin to seeking skin from a tiger. At this thought, I slightly furrow my brows. Fu Yun paused while flipping through the contract and looked up at me. That's because Shui Kai could no longer provide him with help. I was stunned. In the Haicheng project, they planted a mole in the subsidiary, stole the accounts, and fabricated false impressions. Shui Kai and his men are now behind bars. He flipped the page of the document in his hand, his tone as calm as ever. Song Zhao's company is still in its infancy. He is too weak to stand on his own and has to rely on others. I suddenly realized, this was all you're doing. Fu Yun didn't argue, clearly agreeing by default. I blinked and threw myself into his arms. Ah Yun, you're so amazing. He caught my hand, which was wandering with a seductive intent, and suddenly switched to a serious expression. Wei, don't get involved in what's coming next. Why? Because it's dangerous, he said, slightly frowning. That Song Zhao's identity is not as simple as you think, otherwise, Zhao Run wouldn't have agreed to cooperate with him so readily. I was suddenly stunned. You said that in my past life, I chose the most brutal way to die with them. Fu Yun's tone remained calm and unhurried, yet inexplicably carried a chill. That must be because, apart from that, I had no other options. 24 That night, I had another dream. I dreamed of my past life, the 6th year of my marriage to Song Xiao. At a certain gala, I saw him standing close with Zhao Run's daughter, Zhao Yi. Then, for no reason, I became insanely jealous. Acting out of sheer madness, I sent someone to kidnap Zhao Yi, only to be captured by Zhao Run's men instead. A cold dagger pressed against my neck, then traced down the lines of my body. I thought I would die there. Finally, Song Xiao, with an expressionless face, walked in and took me away from the gang. Because of this, in my previous life, I always thought he was just a bit cold on the surface, but still had feelings for me in his heart. But, in this dream, like a sudden cut in a film, my perspective shifted to another room. There sat Zhao Run, his face scarred, and beside him, the expressionless Fu Yun. Before them was a large screen, frozen on the scene of a dagger pressed against my throat. Zhao Run chuckled softly twice. So, Director Fu, have you given any thought to my proposal of cooperation? Fu Yun gazed at my tear-streaked face with those beautiful eyes of his expression utterly unchanged. A few seconds later, he averted his gaze. I agree. Let Meng Wei leave safely. Zhao Run smiled contentedly. Mr. Fu is indeed a smart man. What a shame. If you had agreed to become my son-in-law, we would have been family. Fu Yun replied with cool detachment. I'm afraid I'm not worthy of such an honor. After he stood up and left, Song Xiao and Zhao Yi pushed the door open and entered. Zhao Yi sighed with a hint of regret. Dad, did Fu Yun agree to work with us? Zhao Run gave a nod. What terrible taste. He'd rather be with that utterly clueless Meng Wei than marry me. She turned her head with a smile and glanced at Song Xiao. Brother, when are you finally going to divorce this idiot and marry Sister Suan? 25 I suddenly opened my eyes. The room was pitch dark, with only a faint beam of moonlight filtering through the window. The scenes from the dream lingered in my mind, connecting with other information I already knew, allowing me to quickly uncover the hidden truths of my past life beneath the surface. Wei, I shifted ever so slightly, and Fu Yun, beside me, immediately drew me into his embrace. He held me, silent for a few seconds, before speaking with concern in his voice. You're trembling, I see. I closed my eyes, savoring the familiar crisp scent on him. I understand now. Ah Yun, Song Xiao is Zhao Run's illegitimate son. Zhao Run agreed to cooperate with him immediately because they have already acknowledged each other as father and son. Fu Yun doesn't care at all about Song Zhao's true identity. He only held me tighter. What did you dream about? I wrapped my arms around his lean waist, my voice choked with emotion. I'm sorry, Fu Yun. I finally realized that in my past life, under the schemes of Song Xiao and the Zhao family, I became a hostage used to threaten Fu Yun. Fu's business was forced into the dark, shady underworld. So in the end, Fu Yun chose to end it all, along with everyone else, at that grand wedding. Fortunately, in this life, I woke up from the constraints of the original plot. There's still time. Once I had calmed down, I recounted the Seen from my dream, the hand Fu Yun had placed on my back suddenly tightened slightly, his voice carrying a chill that was almost glacial. Zhao Yi, I understand. 26. Under my deliberate guidance, Main Corporation quickly reached a first-phase cooperation agreement with Song Zhao's studio. Zhao Run also joined in. It was still early. He hadn't yet gained the absolute control over the entire high city as he did in his previous life. Therefore, many unfinished flaws were left behind during the project's execution. These were all collected by Fu Yun and would serve as evidence to bring him to trial in the future, but Fu Yun hasn't contacted me in the past few days. That afternoon, I went to his company and spotted an unfamiliar bright pink sports car downstairs. The door opened, and a familiar figure stepped out. I suddenly froze. It's Zhao Yi, but a much younger version of Zhao Yi. I saw her walking briskly to the other side and opening the car door. Then, Fu Yun in a tailored suit emerged, with a faint smile on his lips, not sure what he said. But Zhao Yi covered her mouth and laughed, then pulled out something resembling a letter from her small bag and handed it to him. Then he got into the car and drove away. Fu Yun stood in place, his gaze sweeping the area. When he passed my car, he paused for a moment. I was quite certain he had recognized me, yet, as if he had seen nothing, he calmly shifted his gaze and went upstairs. A boundless, aching sorrow suddenly welled up and filled my heart. So, is this how Fu Yun felt all those countless times he saw me with Song Xiao? I pushed the car door open, went upstairs, and found Fu Yun in his office. He looked up from behind his desk and said, "Why didn't you knock?" I said with a tinge of jealousy, "Does Zhao Yi need to knock when he comes to see you?" Fu Yun fell silent for a moment, then suddenly stood up and walked toward the lounge nearby. As he walked, he loosened his tie and undid the top 2 buttons of his shirt. He stood in the lounge, his collar half open as he looked at me. "Come here." I deliberately hesitated with a hint of displeasure, dragging my feet as I walked over. The moment I entered the lounge, the door abruptly shut behind me. My back was pressed against the hard, cold door, while my front was flush with the searing heat of Fu Yun's body. His hands gripped my shoulders, his damp kisses, leaving a trail of moisture, traveled from my lips to my ear, then followed the curves of my body, descending inch by inch. Fu Yun knows me far too well. Every single one of my reactions, the absolute limit of what I can endure, the meaning behind every tremor of my body. I felt as if I were hurled high into the clouds, only to plummet down and sink into the boundless sea. Fu Yun, I barely managed to let out a trembling cry before being cast back into the vast, blissful depths. In the end, just before the waves engulfed me completely, I heard his hoarse voice, warm and close, whispering in my ear, "It's all checked, isn't it? I still belong entirely to you." 27. I read the letter Zhao Yi handed to Fu Yun over and over again. I realized it was an invitation to her birthday party. As the main person in charge of the Mengshi project in collaboration with the Zhao family, I also received one. "That day will be dangerous, and I'd rather you didn't go." Fu Yun's glassy, translucent eyes looked at me. "But will you listen to me, Wei Wei?" I shook my head honestly. "No," I quickly added, "because under normal circumstances, we are currently cooperating and things are going smoothly. If I suddenly don't attend the banquet for no reason, it might raise their suspicions. This reason is very convincing." Even Fu Yun couldn't refute it. He stared at me for a moment, then leaned in again to kiss me. "No matter what happens, Wei Wei, remember, your safety comes first." Soon, it was Zhao Yi's birthday celebration. Meng's project, in fact, was a collaboration with the government. So many influential people attended. As one of the 3 parties involved, Song Xiao successfully expanded his network of connections. I stood there with a glass in hand, watching Suwon follow him with a cold, detached gaze. As if sensing my stare, she suddenly turned her head and shot me a look that was both triumphant and provocative. Then, as if to make a point, she linked her arm with Song Zhao's. "Keep this worthless trash for yourself." As I scanned the room, I spotted quite a few familiar faces among the guests who had come. These were all business partners Song Xiao wasn't supposed to meet until several years later. In what I thought of as my past life, did everything happen sooner because Fu Yun took the initiative? Just as I was beginning to understand, Zhao Yi, the guest of honor for tonight's banquet, made his entrance. She held onto Zhao Run's arm with one hand, while Fu Yun stood on her other side with a gentle, faint smile. "Welcome, everyone, to my birthday celebration." She spoke with a beaming smile, her gaze sweeping over my face, tinged with a hint of smug satisfaction. A server wheeled out a massive 3-tiered cake. After cutting the cake, she came downstairs with Fu Yun to mingle with the guests and soon made her way over to me. "Miss Meng, I look forward to a pleasant collaboration on the upcoming project." Zhao Yi smiled at me, then suddenly turned to Fu Yun and asked, "I heard you used to be very close with Miss Meng. and were even engaged by your families as children. That was just a joke between our parents. It was never meant to be taken seriously." Fu Yun's gaze swept over me indifferently before shifting away. "Not to mention Miss Meng already has someone else in her heart. We have absolutely nothing to do with each other now." Even though I knew he was just acting, it still made my blood boil. After a long pause, he let out a contemptuous snort. "If anything, I should be the one thanking you, Mr. Fu." Finally letting me go, he left, walking side by side with Zhao Yi, glass in hand. I soon found Song Xiao by the floor-to-ceiling windows near the garden. He was on a phone call, and Su Wan, who had been by his side, was nowhere to be seen. He couldn't make out what the person on the other end of the line was saying, but his expression grew increasingly grave. 28. Outside the window, the first firework bloomed against the pitch-black night sky. It was followed by countless more, their bursts growing ever more frequent. This was supposed to be the fireworks celebrating Zhao Yi's birthday, but they perfectly masked the gunfire from the fierce battle after. The gang's secret armory was discovered nearby. Remembering Fu Yun's earlier instructions, I quietly and step by step retreated to the corner, just about to leave via the garden path. A bloodied figure suddenly stumbled in through the main gate. "Boss, our deal has been exposed." A gunshot rang out, and the massive crystal chandelier crashed to the ground with a thunderous noise. The entire hall plunged into darkness in an instant, and chaos erupted. I was afraid of getting caught up in the mess, so I obediently hid in the corner, watching the undercover police officers at the banquet take down Zhao Run's men one by one. Wei. Finally, Fu Yun's voice sounded in my ear. He came to my side under the cover of darkness and whispered, "The Zhao family's influence has been deeply entrenched for so many years, they might have another move ready. Let's get out of here first." I nodded, and the tension in my heart gradually began to ease. Just as we managed to avoid the chaotic crowd and made our way to the garden, a night breeze carrying an unknown blend of floral scents wafted over, and suddenly I caught a whiff of something unusual, as if it were some premonition from a past life. My pupils constricted, and I swiftly tackled Fu Yun to the ground, rolling us both to the side. The next instant, a hail of bullets kicked up dust from the very spot where we should have been. I staggered to my feet, only to find myself staring down the barrel of a pitch-black gun. "It's you, of course it's you." Song Xiao held the gun, his gaze fixed on me with something close to loathing. "Why do you keep sabotaging my career and opportunities for growth? If you like me, if you admire me, you should be willing to give to me selflessly and without expecting anything in return. Yet you claim to like me, but all you do is look down on me with a condescending and pitying gaze." Meng Wei, you really disgust me. Even if I were to live another life, I would still be rendered speechless by Song Zhao's shameless words. So in my previous life, no matter how well I treated him or how much effort I put into helping him, in his eyes, it was still an insult, because deep down, he believed that when I offered him help, I should not expect anything in return. "Do I look like a sucker to you?" I was infuriated by his absurd logic and couldn't help but say, "We don't even know each other, yet I'm the one helping you with money. You should be thanking me. If you feel insulted, throw the money in my face and tell me you can make it on your own without my dirty money." But you didn't. The truth is, even though you've hooked up with Zhao Run, you still need to collaborate with me and the Meng family to get the project you want. Without my help, you're nothing but a good-for-nothing. The more I spoke, the paler Song Zhao's face became, but he still gritted his teeth and said, "A sheltered young lady like you, who's never known a day of hardship, could never understand. This has nothing to do with one's background." Fu Yun suddenly let out a soft chuckle, cutting Song Xiao off. "All you do is shift blame and complain. Even if you were born into our family, nothing would change. Just look at you now. You found your father, yet you're still nothing but a worthless piece of trash, trading on your looks for a chance." His gaze was filled with undisguised contempt, yet he seemed to have been prepared for this all along. Just as Song Xiao lost his mind and pulled the trigger, he shoved me aside. The gunshots rang out, more than one. Bullets tore through flesh, bursting into a blood flower tinged with gunpowder smoke. A few warm drops of blood splattered on my face. All I could see was a sea of red, and his eyes slowly closing. Fu Yun 29. The overwhelming smell of disinfectant in the hospital room diluted the scent of lemongrass on Fu Yun. I sat by his hospital bed, gritting my teeth. "Are you sick or something?" His eyelashes fluttered, and he looked at me with a tender, lingering gaze. "I'm sorry, Wei. I just wanted to test something. After all the effort we've made to escape that irresistible force, will the outcome of your past life still repeat itself?" This was why he deliberately provoked Song Xiao, forcing him to shoot at himself. In fact, The undercover police had already noticed that someone was missing from the chaotic hall and had pursued them at the same instant Song Xiao fired. They also pulled the trigger, shooting through his wrist and temple. If the influence of the original plot couldn't be escaped, Fu Yun would inevitably die by Song Zhao's hand instead of ending up like this, with a shoulder injury after the muzzle was successfully deflected. But couldn't you have verified it in many other ways? Did it have to be with your life? This is the safest way. His lips were pale from excessive blood loss, yet his gaze never left me for a moment. If I really die, Song Xiao will undoubtedly be sentenced to death. You won't have any more contact with him, nor will you be sent to a mental hospital. In the coming decades, you will have a stable life of your own. Wei, he paused. For a moment, his voice softening even more, it fell into my ear as lightly as a feather, yet seemed to carry the force of a thunderbolt. I told you, I won't let that happen in your dreams. I stared at Fu Yun in a daze, my throat choked by an invisible air, unable to speak a word. He's truly a bit mad, so he'd rather bet his own life on a high-stakes gamble. If we win, it proves we'd both escape the shadows of our past lives. If we lose, his death could ensure a peaceful life for me. I think of the drugs injected into me in my past life, of falling from a high-rise building. I remember Fu Yun's gaze as he looked at me, tears streaming down my face. In that dimly lit room, I thought of the flames that suddenly erupted at Song Zhao's grand wedding. I thought of the scent of lemongrass that had clung to Fu Yun for over a decade, unchanging. Overwhelmed by a surge of tears, I suddenly grabbed his collar, leaned in, and bit down hard on his lip. The sweet, metallic taste of blood instantly filled my mouth. That won't do either, I said word by word. Your life belongs to me. Fine, it's yours. Fu Yun's originally cold and detached eyes were now filled with a moist tenderness. Everything I have is yours. 30 During those days, Fu Yun found a way to connect with Zhao Yi, hoping to gather intelligence from her. They assisted the police in dismantling a weapons trafficking operation involving over $1 billion. Song Xiao, Zhao Run, Zhao Yi, and others were sentenced to death for their involvement in organized crime, intentional homicide, and illegal possession of firearms. All the guests at the birthday banquet and Zhao Run's hidden network of connections are also being gradually investigated. Although Su Wan did not directly engage with the case itself, she was sentenced to 2 years in prison for providing some assistance. The second and third phases of the main corporation's projects will naturally continue to collaborate with the Fu Corporation under the guise of work. I suddenly found myself spending a lot more time with Fu Yun, but no matter how he tried to seduce me, I kept a straight face and refused. Your injury hasn't healed yet. We'll talk about it after the wound has fully closed up. After saying that, I couldn't help but scold again. You dare to drink with a gunshot wound not yet healed. Don't you want to live? The wet white shirt clung to his body, and Fu Yun opened his eyes, his pupils still hazy with the lingering effects of drunkenness. A tolerant yet helpless smile curved at the corner of his lips. I'm sorry, Wei, you're tempting me again. I swallowed hard and, feigning indifference, tossed the shower head to him. You undress and shower by yourself. I'm going out first. I had only taken a few steps in the steam-filled bathroom when a heavy thud suddenly sounded behind me. After a moment's hesitation, my concern for Fu Yun won out. I turned around and hurried back. Then, the instant I leaned down, he hooked an arm around my neck, pulling us both into the large circular bathtub. With a splash, water sprayed everywhere. I couldn't help but scream. That haute couture gown just arrived last week. I'll buy you 10 new ones tomorrow. His scorching breath was against my ear, growing hotter and hotter. Wei, help me. That kiss lingered on my lips, caressing and turning, until a faint sting came, and it reluctantly left, yet it carried warmth, moving downward and disappearing into the water. How can I help you? The sudden, trembling high note was swallowed whole by a passionate kiss. It's too hot. Help me cool down. Liar. How could I possibly help him cool down? Only led by him, plunging together into the damp tropical rainforest. Then suddenly, a heavy rain, with a slightly cool touch, flowing deep into the river. I didn't fall into a deep sleep until late at night. In a hazy state, I unexpectedly had another dream. In the dream, it was unclear whether it was a past life or this one, because that was a time before Song Xiao appeared. I found a love letter from a boy in my school bag while wearing my high school uniform. Then, like a movie scene, the view shifts. There he stood among a group of ruffians, smoking, his eyes full of malice. So what if she's the young lady of the Meng family? Once I trick her into a date, drug her drink, we can do whatever we want with her. The very next day, on his way to school, a speeding car hit him and broke his leg. In the stark white hospital room, Fu Yun pushed the door open and stared at him with an expressionless face. This is a warning. If You have any more improper thoughts, next time, it won't just be your leg that gets broken." Then the hospital room door clicked shut. He answered the call. The petulant voice of 17-year-old Meng Wei came through the line. "Fu Yun, my birthday is almost here. What did you get me?" "Humph. If it's something I don't like, don't even think about me going on the spring outing with you next month." Fu Yun smiled, his tone full of indulgence. "It's already on your desk, you'll see it when you get home." From school, outside the hospital corridor window, the sun was bright and cherry blossoms were in full bloom. A gentle breeze carried pale pink petals, drifting by at a leisurely pace. It was the spring when everything was yet to begin. The end. Story 2. Silas Jiang's secretary sent him back late at night. "Sister-in-law, Mr. Jiang drank too much for me. Please help me take care of him. Mr. Jiang is not like usual when he is drunk. He keeps clinging to me and throwing tantrums. Sister-in-law, please give me some face and don't blame him." The little girl was wearing a Silas Jiang haute couture suit, and her provocative eyes were filled with fearlessness. Silas Jiang leaned against her drunkenly, the lipstick marks on his white shirt faintly visible. It suddenly occurred to me, I taught Silas Jiang how to climb to a high position. I didn't have time to teach him how to fall down. I woke up in the middle of the night and Silas Jiang hadn't come home yet. I was a little surprised. I opened my eyes and gradually woke up from my confusion. In 3 years of marriage, this has never happened before. I took out my cell phone and called him, but it kept beeping until it hung up automatically and he didn't answer. Silas Jiang asked him to go home first at 6 p.m. because he had an appointment and he would drive himself. I couldn't sleep, so I simply put on my clothes, went downstairs, and sat in the living room to read the group's financial report for this quarter. The clock slowly pointed to 2 o'clock in the morning, and there was a sound at the door. A delicate voice came into my ears. "Boss Jiang, please be gentler. I'm almost out of breath from your hug." I turned around and saw 2 figures entangled with each other. Silas Jiang drunkenly put his arm around a young girl's shoulders, leaning most of his weight on her. The girl's face was red and so tender that water could be squeezed out of it. When she saw me, the girl stood up straight, but her hands were still around Silas Jiang's waist. "Hello, sister-in-law. I am Mr. Jiang's new secretary, Luna. Boss Jiang took me to a social event tonight, and he drank too much to protect me from the alcohol. Thank you, sister-in-law, for taking good care of him for me." "Sister-in-law, you may not know that Mr. Jiang always clings to me when he's drunk and has a bad temper. Please be considerate and don't take it personally." I folded my arms across my chest and looked her over. He is in his early 20s, with a naive face, but the ambition in his eyes is undisguised. Silas Jiang's high-end suit jacket draped over her shoulders could not cover her white dress, which looked cheap and ill-fitting. The look she gave me was defiant, clear, fearless, and stupid. I even wanted to laugh a little. Turning to look at Silas Jiang, there was a faint lipstick mark on the chest of his white shirt. It's exactly the color of Luna's lipstick. I turned cold and called him expressionlessly, "Silas Jiang." Silas Jiang looked up at me and reflexively extended his hand to me. "Esme, my head hurts." I took a step back, and Silas Jiang lost his balance and was about to fall to the ground. Luna quickly stepped forward and hugged Silas Jiang tightly. She looked at me with dissatisfaction. "Sister-in-law, you live in a big mansion and spend a lot of money, but as someone's wife, why don't you learn to understand Mr. Jiang's hard work? Without him, can you live such a good life? I feel really bad for Mr. Jiang." I looked at her expressionlessly. She subconsciously took 2 steps back, still holding my husband tightly in her arms. "Luna, right, I want to ask, what position and identity do you have to feel so disappointed for my husband?" Luna blushed, stiffened her neck, and was unable to speak. I turned around and told the butler, "Uncle Chen, my son-in-law has drunk too much. Bring him a basin of cold water to sober him up." Uncle Chen had been standing not far away. When he heard my instructions, he stepped forward and pulled Silas Jiang off Luna. A servant brought cold water and poured it over Silas Jiang's head and face. Silas Jiang gradually woke up amid Luna's screams. He staggered to his feet and reached out to me in panic. "Esme, let me explain." Silas Jiang walked towards me, and he stopped a few steps away from me because he was afraid that the cold water on his body would get on me. "Esme, I didn't do anything to offend you." I sneered. "Didn't do it? You haven't had time to do it yet." Luna suddenly squeezed in between me and Silas Jiang. Her face and eyes were red, and her voice was choked with sobs. "Boss Jiang, when a client got me drunk tonight, you said you would give me a promotion tomorrow, Do you think I need to report this matter to my sister-in-law first? Silas Jiang's face turned cold. Luna's tears fell one by one like pearls from a broken string. She covered her face and slowly squatted down. Mr. Jiang, I'm sorry, I know I overstepped my authority, but I really want to establish myself in this city. Silas Jiang was silent for a few seconds. I know that Silas Jiang was probably thinking about his own days of poverty and struggle at the bottom of society. Sure enough, he reached out and patted her head gently. I can still make the decision on this little matter. You go back first. I'll arrange the promotion tomorrow. Luna burst into laughter, gave me a provocative look, stood up and walked out. I called her. Luna, I have something to remind you of. Your CEO John's white shirt can only be stained by my lipstick and the blood of my opponent. Luna left and Uncle Chen cleared out the servants. The living room, which had been noisy just a moment ago, was now filled with only Silas Jiang and I. I sat back on the sofa with an expressionless face and picked up the financial report. Silas Jiang held his forehead helplessly. Esme, you are too sensitive. Luna is just a secretary. We have a normal superior-subordinate relationship. I ignored him. Silas Jiang half knelt in front of me. Esme, I will never forget this in my life. If it weren't for you, I might never have been able to lead that small mountain village. You funded my studies, taught me the ways of the world, and single-handedly helped me become the CEO of Yachin Group. How could I do anything to let you down? Esme, I would never. I put the financial report down and looked at him quietly. Silas Jiang is the man I chose myself. I sponsored him. And after he started to show his talents, I kept him by my side and patiently taught him everything his mother had taught me. I am an heir to capital who values profit above all else, but I have used the greatest patience of my life on Silas Jiang at this moment. His neat slicked back hair was wet by the water and fell down limply after he hugged another woman in front of me. He told me he would never do anything to let me down. He is still the CEO of Yachin, and any move he makes can have a huge impact on the entire company. I hope he is smart enough to weigh the pros and cons. Silas, I taught you not to bring lies and dirty things home. The clock pointed to 3 o'clock, and I got up and went upstairs. Silas Jiang's voice came from behind. Esme, you really don't need my explanation. I stood on the stairs and didn't look back. Silas, Luna's performance is not good enough for the position of CEO secretary. I don't agree with her promotion. I suggest that she be moved out of the core circle of the group. She is not trustworthy, perhaps due to the alcohol. Silas Jiang acted recklessly. He shouted at me, Esme, from the first day I met you, you always looked so superior and competent. You are always calm and can always handle everything outside of your emotions. Have you ever panicked? Have you ever been afraid? Have you ever given your all? I even wonder, if one day I die, will you calculate the gains and losses first, instead of being sad about losing me first? I stood on the stairs for a long time, so long that Silas Jiang fell to the ground, muttering to himself, I know it, I will never be more important than money in your heart. I turned around and looked down at him. If I didn't have money, how could I pull you out of that small mountain village? As a human being, you can't eat with the bowl in your hand and then curse your mother when you put the bowl down. Silas Jiang slept in the guest room, and when I got up the next day, he had already gone out for work. While eating breakfast, I habitually opened the group's internal email. The latest email was sent from the president's office, which clearly stated that with the approval of President Silas Jiang, Luna was appointed as the president's special assistant effective immediately. My hand that was drinking milk stopped in midair, and I stared at the bold and black words, President's special assistant, for a long time. He raised his hand and threw the milk cup away. This man whom I personally chose finally changed his mind. I looked at the broken glass all over the floor, just like seeing the time when I thought Silas Jiang and I were the closest together, shattered into pieces. I am unhappy. At this time, a message from Ling Jin, the group's vice president, came in on WeChat. Clicking on the picture, it is a screenshot of Luna's latest moments. She took a selfie while sitting on Silas Jiang's office chair, and Silas Jiang could be vaguely seen making coffee in the background. The caption is, I sit in the boss's chair, drink the coffee made by the boss, and worship the boss to the point of weakness in my legs. Silas Jiang was the first to like it. Ling Jin's second message came right after. Silas Jiang is pretty brave. I lit a cigarette and prepared to reply to Ling Jin when a verification message popped up on WeChat. Business card pushed by Silas Jiang. The applicant is Luna. I raised an eyebrow. It seems that not only Silas Jiang is very brave, but this little bird is also very brave. I passed the verification, and Luna's information popped up one after another. Luna, the special assistant to Mr. Jiang. Boss Jiang said that I should report his daily schedule to you. When Mr. Jiang came to the company today, he was in a bad mood. I accompanied him to the old street to eat dumplings, and he finally smiled. Mr. Jiang said that xiaolongbao was his favorite food before. After being with you, he can only accompany you to eat all kinds of exquisite dishes, but he is not happy at all. Sister-in-law, you are used to a life of luxury. I can accompany President Jiang to experience the world of fireworks on your behalf. The messages kept popping up and my phone kept vibrating. My mood had almost calmed down, but now my anger started to rise again. To me, there are only two categories of things in this world: what I want and what I don't want. There is never a category called snatched. I picked up my phone, called Uncle Chen, and set off for the group. Standing at the door of Silas Jiang's office, I heard laughter. I raised my hand and knocked on the door. The laughter stopped abruptly and Luna opened the door from the inside. When she saw me, she smiled. Sister-in-law, are you here to see Mr. Jiang? You may have to wait a while. Mr. Jiang is not very convenient right now. As soon as he finished speaking, Silas Jiang's scolding followed closely. Luna, like magic. Luna's eyes turned red in an instant. Too lazy to watch her acting, I said. I'm not looking for Silas Jiang, I'm looking for you. Come with me. Luna stood still. Sister-in-law, please make it clear to me that I am Mr. Jiang's special assistant and have nothing to do with you. You can't order me around like this. I looked past her and at Silas Jiang behind her and smiled. Silas Jiang. First time, Silas Jiang's expression changed and he pushed Luna. Esme's words are my words. Do as you say. Luna followed me reluctantly and walked to the door of the president's office. When the secretaries inside saw me, they all stood up and called me in unison. Hello, Miss. Luna scoffed at their reactions. Can you guys do this? She's Mr. Jiang's wife. I can understand if you call her madam. What's the matter with calling you miss? No one paid any attention to her. I pulled out 10 cards from my bag, 2 for each person except Luna. When they saw the cards, their eyes lit up with excitement. Oh my god, it's a custom card for you. Oh my god, miss, is this for us? Yes, yes, I've been waiting in line for 5 months and still couldn't order any clothes from him. I nodded. Everyone can bring the card and have 2 sets of work clothes tailor-made at Zune, and the cost will be charged to my account. I have already contacted them, and the customization time is about a month. A month later, everyone's work uniforms were changed to Zune suits. Every quarter, we will give everyone 2 sets of work clothes. Luna didn't react yet. She asked blankly, what about me? I laughed. Of course you have to wear it too. Ho, Tay, assistant. She stamped her feet in anxiety. I mean, where's my card? Why do they all have it but I don't? I put my hands in my pockets, expressionless, because they are all secretaries, and you are the only special assistant. All have a normal working relationship with Silas Jiang. Only you, Mr. Jiang, adore me so much that my legs are weak. There was a buzz of discussion and everyone's expressions were very interesting. It seems that Luna has been jumping around for quite some time, which is why everyone dislikes her. Perhaps it was Silas Jiang's ambiguous attitude that gave her the courage to dance in front of me. Luna was furious. She took 2 steps forward, pointed at me and said loudly, you don't work for the company, so what right do you have to decide the company's affairs? I believe Mr. Jiang is not the kind of person who cannot distinguish between public and private matters. You are not welcome here. Please leave now. The manicured fingers poked straight at the bridge of my nose. I raised my eyes and gave Silas Jiang a warning look. He paused for a moment after taking a step forward. I looked at Luna and whispered, Uncle Chen. Uncle Chen said nothing, took 2 steps forward, grabbed Luna's fingers and twisted them hard. Snap, along with the sound of broken bones. There was also Luna's scream. Cold sweat broke out on her pale little face. Tears also fell down. The scene was quiet and no one stood up for her. She turned around crying and saw Silas Jiang right behind her. Suddenly he burst into tears. Mr. Jiang, it hurts, it hurts. Silas Jiang's face looked very ugly. There was pity in his eyes when he looked at Luna, but his eyes when he looked at me were complicated. Silas Jiang, he forgot that I am a typical Capricorn woman. I'll try my best in the process, but if the result is not satisfactory, I can give it all up. I have understood since childhood that sunk costs should not be involved in major decision-making. Luna cried miserably. Silas Jiang endured it again and again, veins on his neck popping out, and finally asked for my opinion in a low voice. Esme, Luna is injured. Can I take her to the hospital first? Luna looked up at me, smiling obviously. Silas Jung's words were like a loud slap in my face. I calmed down completely. Okay, I'll pay for the medical expenses. Luna collapsed in Silas Jung's arms. He held her in his arms, his steps hesitant. Esme, I'll explain it to you slowly when we get home tonight. He carried her away, leaving the remaining secretaries clutching the cards in their hands, at a loss as to what to do. I smiled gently. Every word I say counts, and I'd like to ask everyone to hurry up and measure the size. Oh, by the way, it seems that Luna doesn't know my identity. Please keep it a secret for the time being. On the way home, I told Uncle Chen to start clearing up all of Silas Jung's affairs in the group and prepare for the complete separation of Silas Jung and Yachen. Uncle Chen agreed. He hesitated and asked me, Miss, you don't want Luna to know your identity? Do you have any plans? I can make arrangements in advance. I shook my head. No, I'll do it myself. If you dare to covet my things, you will have to pay the price. Uncle Chen reminded me. My uncle might also reveal your identity. I laughed. He is the most unlikely one. He is so fascinated by Luna's admiration that he is at a loss. How can he let Luna know that everything he has comes from me? That night, Silas Jung did not go home. Luna updates her moments every 10 minutes. My hands hurt, but you stayed with me, and the sweetness overwhelmed the pain of the body. It's late at night, and you're still by my side. At this moment, I feel like I'm the luckiest princess in the world. At 2 a.m., Luna updated another post, this time with a picture. Silas Jung was sleeping shirtless on a pink bed. The blush on his face had not yet completely faded. It feels so wonderful to have you. I took screenshots of all of Luna's moments, saved them one by one, checked the time, and called my mom. Esme, do you miss Mom and Dad? My parents' happy voices came back from the other side of the ocean, and I couldn't help but laugh along with them. Mom, I'm going to divorce Silas Jung. Oh, okay, Esme, my dad and I just found a really delicious little restaurant. Come over when you're free and we'll take you there. Mom, Yachen, okay, you decide. Mom, I decided to take over Yachen myself. Okay, what? I'm so tired, my dear. I held the phone in my hand, quietly feeling the rich love of my parents, which reached from the ocean shores into my heart. Yeah, I know, Mom, it's not a big deal. Yachen is Silas Jung's stepping stone to climb up, and I will destroy his path with my own hands. Mom finally dropped her joking tone. Once you decide, do it. Whenever you need Mom, give me a call and I'll come back anytime. After chatting for a while, I hung up the phone. I just found out that the materials compiled by Uncle Chen had been sent to my email. After reading it carefully, a plan gradually took shape in my mind. The next day, I slept until I woke up naturally. Uncle Chen didn't report to me until I finished my breakfast leisurely. Miss, I stopped the son-in-law as you instructed. He has been waiting outside the door. He said he wanted to explain to you. I stood up. Then go and listen to the lies he carefully made up for me. The sun was scorching at 11 o'clock. Silas Jung stood outside the gate for several hours in the sun, his face flushed and looking a little embarrassed. When he saw me, he came forward aggrievedly and tried to hold my hand. Esme, I moved aside. Don't touch me, it's dirty. Silas Jung stood there in a daze for a while, then he withdrew his hand and lowered his head. Esme, can you please listen to my explanation? Luna's finger was broken, and she kept crying in pain last night and couldn't take care of herself. I really have no choice but to stay and take care of her. I lowered my head and played with my phone until he was quiet for a few minutes, then I looked up in surprise. Don't you want to explain? So short. Silas Jung was a little anxious. Esme, this is what happened. I'm not sorry. I laughed out loud, took screenshots of Luna's moments, and sent them to him one by one. Mr. Jiang, if I'm not mistaken, the moments that your baby Luna posted last night should only be visible to me. I'm passing it on to you. Enjoy it. Silas Jung couldn't continue after looking at 2 pictures. His face turned pale and his eyes were blank. Mr. Jiang, don't bother coming up with excuses. I won't believe a single word you say. Give me an address and I'll ask Uncle Chen to move your personal belongings there. Silas Jung was anxious. Esme, we are husband and wife. Are you going to chase me away? Do you mind Luna? I will fire her tomorrow. No, today. Please don't be angry. Okay, I comforted him. Silas, you know I keep my private and professional lives separate. I cannot accept what you have done. We must get a divorce, but the group needs you, and I will not make decisions that affect the group because of personal feelings. Just work and I'll set you free. Silas Jung let out a long sigh. Really? I nodded. Like you said, Money is the most important thing to me. You can make money for me, so I won't be impulsive. Silas Jiang finally smiled. Esme, then after a while, when you've calmed down, I'll come back to see you. I turned and walked in, watching coldly from the surveillance camera as Luna ran out of a car not far away and jumped into Silas Jiang's arms. Silas Jiang, you betrayed me. How could I let you go? I'm going to catch both of you in one fell swoop. Silas Jiang and I completed the divorce procedures, with the prenuptial property notarization and prenuptial agreement. We don't have any property disputes. Silas Jiang only took away his legal income from Yachen in the following days. The reports were delivered to me on time as I requested, and I rarely appeared in the group from Ling Jin's gossip. We learned that Luna was becoming more and more powerful in the group and she regarded herself as the president's wife. Ling Jin really dislikes these two people and she asks me about it almost every day. When are you going to make your move? How long are you going to put up with these two idiots? I always smiled and comforted her. It will be soon, soon. 3 months later, we finally met at an auction. Luna held Silas Jiang's hand, wearing all branded clothes and looking very proud. When she saw me, she didn't even try to avoid me, but walked over to me with Silas Jiang on her arm. Sister-in-law. Ah, no, Miss Sue, long time no see. I heard that you put up for auction the token of love that Brother Silas gave you today. Without Brother Silas, is Miss Sue's life so miserable? I ignored her and turned to leave. Luna stopped me. Miss Sue, don't worry. Brother Silas promised me that he would bring the pigeon eggs back to me. This is the official handover of your relationship. Silas Jiang with a little concern. Is what she said true? Under Luna's admiring eyes, Silas Jiang nodded reluctantly. I added, is the money enough? Luna exploded. What do you mean? Do you know what Yachen's CEO means? Don't try to use money to sow discord between me and Brother Silas. I nodded and said meaningfully, then I wish Miss He all her wishes come true. I wish Mr. Jiang and Ms. He a happy marriage. This ring, called Pink Princess, was bought for me by Silas Jiang a few years ago after he made his first fortune. He traveled thousands of miles abroad to buy it. The quality is not top-notch, but I value his kindness, so I cherish it. When the Pink Princess was put on the stage and the host told the story behind the ring, Silas Jiang's face did not look good. The starting price is 15 million, and Luna raises the sign, 16 million. No one followed the price. Luna had a smile on her face. Silas Jiang looked back at me in surprise based on his most basic understanding of me. This is not my style. 16 million for the first time, 16 million second time. Luna was so happy and excited. The joy of victory in sight made her unable to control herself. She turned around and threw herself into Silas Jiang's arms. Silas Jiang's expression became more serious. 16 millionth. The auction hammer was about to fall when a lazy voice came from the corner. 30 million. Luna's face changed drastically. She stood up angrily, but after seeing who made the bid, she sat down dejectedly. The person holding the sign was the city's famous playboy, Lu Xingye, the prince of the Lu group. Luna's expression changed in a second. She looked at Lu Xingye pitifully and spoke timidly. Mr. Lu, this ring has a very special meaning to me. Can you give it to me? Lu Xingye rolled his eyes. How much do you weigh? Are you worthy enough to ask me to give in? I just don't like you too. So I'm deliberately trying to annoy you. I'm putting this out there. If Jiang raises the price once, I won't snatch it away. Lu Xingye put Silas Jiang on the spot with just a few words. I sat in the back row and watched his hesitation coldly. 30 million is almost all of Silas Jiang's wealth. I am also curious whether Silas Jiang will follow or not. Luna did not disappoint me. The people at the auction were all rich or noble. Her tears came at will. Brother Silas, I just want to possess the feelings you once had for Miss Sue. Are you really willing to let this ring fall into the hands of outsiders? Even if I don't deserve it, it belongs to you and Miss Sue in the past. Luna wanted to continue, but Silas Jiang gritted his teeth and held up the sign. 31 million. The hammer fell and everyone was happy. Only Silas Jiang looked at me from afar, looking exhausted. After the auction was over, Luna came to me with Silas Jiang to show off. Thank you, Miss Sue, for your generosity. Please let me have the past of Miss Sue and Brother Silas along with this ring. I'm different from Miss Sue. I will cherish Brother Silas. Luna is very happy and I am very happy too. I smiled and nodded. Luna, I stayed here to wait for you because I have something to tell you. Oh, no, too. First, buying this ring cost Silas Jiang all his savings. In other words, he may not be as rich as you now. Second, Luna, you stand still. I am the actual controlling shareholder of Yachen. In other words, I am the boss of Silas Jiang. Luna's smile froze on her face, and she looked at Silas Jiang with a pale face. Brother Silas, tell me that what she said is not true. Say something. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Didn't you tell me that Sushi is just a housewife who spends your money? I checked the information. The chairman of Yachen is not named Sue. How could she be the boss of Yachen? I smiled so hard that my eyes narrowed. Have you found out that Chairman Yachen's husband's surname is Sue? The chairman's daughter is called Sushi. Luna's legs went limp and she struggled to hold on to Silas Jiang before she could stand up straight. Silas Jiang ignored her. His face was even paler than Luna's. He looked at me, and there was no light in his eyes anymore. Esme, this is your revenge on me, right? I have to take a picture of this ring whether I want to or not, right? As long as I want to stay in this circle, I can't let the ring fall into the hands of others, right? What's the point of spending all my savings? I shrugged. Yachen still needs you, you gong. I won't touch you, but I can't bear to see you living so well. It's just a little trick to vent my anger. I turned around with a smile and Silas Jiang called me. Esme, was that antique men's watch you just bought for me? I've liked that watch for a long time. You still remember it, right? I glanced at the antique watch in Uncle Chen's hand, and thinking of Lu Xingye's I'm the best in the world look, the corners of my mouth curled up inexplicably. No, Mr. Jiang, what you like. There will be others who like it. No one stipulates that you can have what you like. After the auction, the cooperation project between Yachen Group and Lu Group, led by Silas Jiang, officially entered the final stage of negotiation. Silas Jiang must surpass Lu Xingye at the auction. He cannot lose. If he loses at the auction, his momentum will be diminished at the negotiation table. Both sides refused to make concessions, and after several rounds of difficult negotiations, there was still no progress on the cooperation project. At the critical moment, I asked Uncle Chen to spread the news that in view of the unfavorable progress of the cooperation project, the top management intended to replace the president. In short, regardless of the cost, we must secure the cooperation with Lu while ensuring profits. As soon as the news came out, some people became anxious. Silas Jiang rushed to my house in a rage to see me. Uncle Chen stopped him, so he could only stand in the hall and yell at me. Esme, I washed and took care of my skin slowly for half an hour. Before going downstairs, Silas Jiang had been holding and had dissipated. Esme, Mr. Zhang just talked to me and said that you are interested in replacing the president. Is that true? I took the coffee Uncle Chen handed me, drank it slowly, and looked up and asked him, sorry, I didn't hear you clearly. What did you call me? No, I'm sorry, miss. Silas Jiang lowered his head, clenched his fists at his sides, and the veins on his neck were faintly visible. I can understand that. This used to be his home. Uncle Chen, whom he fears now, once obeyed him after being so happy and carrying a beautiful girl for several months. He finally understood. Without me, he is nothing. Mr. Jiang, let's talk business. If you can't get the cooperation project from Lu, I have sufficient reasons to question your workability. Go ahead, I won't change my mind. Uncle Chen, please show him up. Don't let strangers in the future. Silas Jiang's fists clenched tighter and tighter, and he hesitated to speak. Several times I lowered my head to play with my phone, completely uninterested in his struggle. Uncle Chen took 2 steps forward. Silas Jiang was always afraid of Uncle Chen. He could only turn around and leave in silence. Confirming that Silas Jiang had left, Uncle Chen drove me to the coffee shop himself. Luna is already waiting for me. Seeing me come in, she stood up reflexively, then held her head high and sat back proudly. I didn't expose her nervousness. After sitting down, I got straight to the point. I'm going to change to Silas Jiang. Luna's eyes widened. Why? I laughed. Because he betrayed me. He can't take down the Lu family. As far as I'm concerned, I don't like him. Luna finally got smart and asked me cautiously, why did you tell me? Aren't you afraid that I'll tell Silas first so he can prepare early? I shook my head. I'd just like to see you guys cornered and helpless. Silas Jiang was fired by me, and it is impossible for him to find a good job in the industry. You two will have hard times soon. Luna with a pale face. I got up and left. On the way back in the car, I instructed Uncle Chen, prepare to close the net. After receiving a call from Lu Xingye, I rushed to the police station with the materials I had prepared. Silas Jiang, who was about to flee abroad at the airport, after my special request, the 4 of us met in the conference room of the police station. When enemies meet, they are especially jealous of each other. Luna rushed over and tried to hit Me Lu Xingye subconsciously protected me behind him. I smiled broadly and pointed at the camera above my head. Luna, if you touch me today, believe it or not, I have plenty of ways to make your crime even more severe. Luna didn't dare to move. She stared at me and gasped. You are so vicious, you are so vicious. This is all your fault, it's all your fault. You went through so much trouble to create the illusion that Silas Jiang was going to lose his job. It turns out that your ultimate goal was to have us steal Yachen's company secrets. When I took Yachen's top-secret documents and tried to exchange them for a better price with Mr. Liu, I found out that you and Mr. Liu had already signed a cooperation agreement. This bullshit cooperation project can't be advanced. It's all your drama. You even secretly installed a camera in Silas Jiang's office. You even tampered with the top-secret documents you gave to Silas Jiang. We just want to exchange our resources for some money from Master Liu. Then we will go abroad and have nothing to do with you anymore. Why won't you let us go? I nodded calmly, finally figured it out. Unfortunately it's too late. What on earth makes you think that I, Sushi, would swallow such a huge loss? I have always been the only one who has let others down. I will never accept anyone letting me down. Silas Jiang, who had been silent all this time, had red eyes and a choked voice. Miss, so this is your revenge. I thought you put Pink Princess up for auction because you didn't want to see it again. It turns out that the chessboard was already set up at that time. I spent all my savings to buy the ring, and now I have no confidence, and you are trying to force me to lose my job. I've been living a good life for so long that I'll take a risk when I'm left with nowhere else to go. Luna is the only person I can use, and the best person to steal company secrets. Yes, you are the real boss behind Yachen, and you are the only heir of Yachen. Why should I be so naive to believe that you would really let me go? I put the materials in my hand in front of Silas Jiang. Mr. Jiang, it's pretty much as you guessed. It was just one minor detail that was wrong. The chessboard has been set since the night Luna sent you home. Divorce. But letting you stay in Yachen doesn't mean you are irreplaceable. It's just to pack you two up and let you die together. Silas Jiang's eyes became redder and redder, and his gaze gradually lost focus. Pushed the materials in front of Silas Jiang in a mean manner, revealing the antique men's watch on his wrist. Silas Jiang widened his eyes and stared at Lu Xingye's wrist. You guys, miss, this watch is what I like it. Silas Jiang's emotions finally broke down. He covered his face with his hands and sobbed. Silas Jiang expressionlessly, looking like a lost dog, and said the last words of my life to him. Silas Jiang, this is the last thing I will teach you. I taught you how to climb up there. Now, I will teach you how to fall down. 2 months later, Lu Xingye accompanied me to the trial. Silas Jiang and Luna were sentenced to 5 years and 3 years in prison respectively for the crime of infringing on trade secrets, and were fined. After the judge read out the verdict in court, I stood up and left. When I walked to the door, I heard Silas Jiang's heart-wrenching cry from behind. Esme, I'm sorry. I didn't look back. Silas Jiang drunkenly put his arm around a young girl's shoulders, leaning most of his weight on her. Big drop. Lu Xingye opened the car door for me. It's my mom's birthday tonight. May I have the honor of inviting Miss Su to accompany me to the family dinner? I shook my head. No, I have a date with Jackie tonight. Lu Xingye's expression changed. Who is Jackie? I looked at him in surprise. No way, you don't know. The #1 male model of the Eclipse House. Lu Xingye's teeth were chattering. Su, in your heart, I am not as good as a male model. I looked him up and down, lingering on one spot in particular for a moment longer. To be honest, I may not be able to compare to